All right. So we are getting started with Wave Two's competitors, which means that we get to do more PT things. For people tuning into Patreon, I'm Cait. I'm a physical therapist.
Yeah, it's
You might
nice
not
to
know who
meet
you
you.
are.
My name is Chantel. I go by SVL. I am one of the members for Wave 2 of EXO Academy. I'll be doing Tekken for this round, and I'll be training going to Combo Breaker in the next upcoming 4 weeks. So I'm super excited for all of this, and it's a pleasure to actually get to meet with you. I've actually heard about your 1 HP stuff because, just a little side note, before actually hearing about this, in my college class, we have an esports lab going on. And so they were wanting us to do research on certain different ideas and develop different ideas in regards to the esports business. And we're thinking about doing about something about mental health and stuff. And I saw your website, 1HP. So, super excited to get to
Very
actually meet the
cool.
person who is part of that.
I'm really excited to be working with you guys. Excuse me, too. I had a really fun time working with Wave One's competitors, with Pichan and with Romanova, and they were really great to work with. Um, Plus, I just love the whole model Persia's put out here of helping female competitors develop, and then on top of it, kind of like really taking a holistic approach to it. So looking at it not just from gameplay, but also health and wellness and media and commentating and cosplay. It's kind of running the gamut of what you could possibly be interested in gaming, which is a really great thing to see.
Yeah,
All
super
right, so
excited.
let me tell you a little bit about what you kind of expect from this particular session of like your special coaching.
Okay.
So this first half hour session is my kind of get to know you and your interests and your issues. So
Okay.
this is how I know what's going on with you, what kind of things I want to look out for,
Mhm.
and then I get a better sense of kind of what your goals and your motivations are, and from there, I help build you something that's gonna kind of get you like good and warmed up, and then something you can do as an easy break activity and something you can do as a cool down. And the thing that I'm gonna designing for you is the thing that you'll be practicing just like you practice your other, your tech skill and strategy and all the rest.
Mhm.
Um, because come tournament time, you don't want to be implementing something entirely new and different. You want to be doing what's familiar and what's practiced and what is second nature to you. So if if I were to meet you at a tournament, I wouldn't teach you how to do this at a tournament
Mhm.
because you have other things you can and should be focusing on.
Yeah.
So having all this time before combo breaker is really great because you can integrate this into your daily practice and make it just something very natural and easy and kind of flow for you. Um,
Cool.
yeah, and please ask questions as we go along. I love being able to answer questions about the stuff I do. I geek out about this. I wouldn't be in this line of work if I didn't geek out about this. So feel free to ask all you want. And I guess the first place to start from, before we jump in, do you have any questions?
Um, Not really at the moment. I think I'm
Okay.
ready to answer whatever questions you throw right now.
All right. So I know you're here for Tekken specifically. Do you play any other games as well?
Yeah, I do actually. Tekken is my main game right now, but currently I have been playing other fighting games. Mortal Kombat 11 just came out, so I've been playing that. Um, Eunice, I've been playing that a lot too, and then I play a little bit of Dragon Ball FighterZ, just a little bit of everything at the
Right.
moment. But right now, Tekken's my main game, and then every now and then, uh, I occasionally play Apex or Rainbow Six Siege with my friends. But all in all, fighting games is what I mainly play.
Okay. So are you even for like Apex Legends and stuff? Are you console only? Do you spend some time on PC, or is it like way more like a 95-5 mix of console to PC?
For the shooters, I'm 100% PC, and
Okay.
then for fighting games, it's a mix. I play PC when I can, but for the most part, I just play on PS4. I am
Okay.
a pad player, so that's my
That was the
main.
next question.
Yeah, so that's what I use. I use a PlayStation 4 controller, and I use the D-pad for my motions.
Those are all really important. Sorry, I'm like taking notes as I go along here, so like occasionally here you'll just have random pauses where I'm typing things frantically.
Oh, yeah, no worries.
because I will absolutely forget something if I don't write it down. Therefore, I write it
Mm-hmm.
all down. So, about how much time do you spend per day playing and training for tech?
Currently at the moment, I don't really have a consistent number of time or number of hours that I play on a daily basis for Tekken, but I'd say I would average at least 1 to 2 hours at the
Okay.
least.
And how about just like other, any and all gameplay total per day?
Oh, any all gameplay? Yeah, I'd say at least 2 to 3 hours a day I'd spend playing video games.
Okay. And what do you do for during the day? Are you a student? Are you working?
I am both actually. I work at GameWorks as a room manager for the Esports Video Game Lounge, but I also go to school full time at UNLV. So, uh, during the weekdays, I'll alternate between going to work and going to school.
Okay, so your days are pretty full. You are doing stuff pretty consistently.
Yeah, every day is something. So today I went to work, and then tomorrow I'll be going to school, and then the next day after I go to work, and then the next day after that I go to school.
Okay. So for work, are you on your feet more often? Are you sitting more often? Kind of what's the balance?
I'm on my feet, basically like 90% of the time during my shift.
Okay. And how about for school? Because I know sometimes, depending on the type of school you're doing, depending on
Mm-hmm.
labs, you may or may not be on your feet, or you might just be in a lecture.
All my classes are lectures, so I'm usually sitting for those duration of classes. Each class is about like an hour, 15 minutes long, so I spend about, in total every day, I'd say at least 3 to 4 hours sitting for classes, and then I would spend around half an hour to 45 minutes walking around to get to classes on campus.
Okay. So it sounds like kind of more of the balance is at work, you're on your feet, and more of the balance at school, you're sitting,
Yep.
which is really interesting because I want to make sure that then I'm also able to give you, even if I'm not giving you, a formal stretching structure that you must do every single day,
Mm-hmm.
that I can give you things that'll help you out in your regular everyday life too. Because, I mean, most of us aren't competing at, aren't playing at such a level that we are full time competitors and that is all we
Mm-hmm.
do. And what you're doing outside of your gaming affects your ability to game. So if I'm able to give you something that makes what you do outside of gaming a little easier and a little less stressful on your body, then that makes gaming that much easier.
Ooh.
So it's a little less direct, but it's
Yeah.
still getting at the same goal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see, what kind of things do you do to stay active?
For the most part, I just take walks occasionally. Other than that, being active, the only thing that I really do that involves strenuous physical activity is I go to my local arcades and I play Pump It Up for at least an hour to 2 hours.
Awesome. I think you're not alone in your love of games of that genre. I think
Yeah, I think it was
I think
a
Peach plays DDR in arcades pretty consistently, doesn't
yeah,
she? Right?
yeah. I saw some of her video footage. I think she's pretty good at it. I'm not
I'd
as good.
agree.
I'm pretty average, but it does take a lot of physical activity out of me. So I really like playing pump a lot.
Okay, that's a really good way to go. Like that's for me the most important thing with in terms of exercise. Like yeah, there are general guidelines you want to hit, and there are optimal ways, like most efficient possible ways to exercise. But really, to me, the best way for somebody to exercise is the one that they're actually going to stick with doing. And so, if that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing that you want to do, hell, do that thing that works. That gets you exercise. It's good. Um, I'm one of those crazy people who loves running really long distances, but I recognize that I'm crazy, and not everybody is, and therefore I don't push everybody into running.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's really good for me to know. Let's see. Do you have any history of injuries, either whole body or just hands specifically?
Nope. I have never experienced any injuries on my body. I mean, just like occasional, like if I were to play outside when I was a kid and I would like fall and scrape my knee and stuff like that. But I never broke any bones. I never like sprained any ankles or wrists or anything.
Okay. And do you have any like aches or pains when you're gaming ever?
Um, no, not for the most part. Usually after long amounts of playing on PlayStation, my thumb would be sore, and I usually assume it gets sore on the pad on of my thumb because I'm just pressing down too hard on the D-pad. that's really it. Other than that, I don't really get any joint pains on my fingers or anything when I'm playing.
Awesome. How old are you?
21.
Okay, yeah. That tells me you were in that sweet spot in terms of prevention. I'm not terribly surprised that you're not having lots of pain right now. For one thing, it sounds like there's a lot you do to stay active, which in general builds up your body really well.
Hmm.
But also at 21, you are still young and made of rubber.
Yeah.
You will unfortunately not always be young and made of rubber. I can speak to you as a wizened 29-year-old here. Um, so setting up those good habits now really helps you in the future when your body doesn't bounce back quite as quickly as it used to, or it takes on a little more strain than it previously did.
Hmm.
Um, so this is definitely a really good time to kind of build this as like just a normal, casual, everyday habit. Um, when you're playing, do you sit in a chair with arms, chair without arms? Do you use armrests?
Um, I usually sit in a chair with arms.
Okay. And are you, because I work with a lot of Smash players, and a lot
Hmm.
of them play by kind of leaning forward, elbows resting on the knees, kind of supporting their body weight there. Do you do that? Do you sit back in the chair? Is it a mix of the?
It's more like a mix of the two. Sometimes I do lean forward, but for the most part, I play in a pretty lax position by just leaning back on the chair for the most part.
Okay, that's really useful. That's one of the really important things, and it's a pretty good indicator of if somebody's going to be likely to have some history of pain.
Hmm.
The issue with leaning forward and putting your weight onto your elbows is when you're playing, you're asking your arms to be this stable base for your really mobile fingers. They need to be mobile. This needs to be stable.
Hmm.
And so optimally, you're not also asking it to be your body weight support. If you're asking it to do that, you're asking your arms to be stable, mobile, and supportive, and that's a heck of a lot to ask from them. And it's
Hmm.
more than they should be having to take on. It's more than your body is designed to take on. And yeah, your body is adaptive, and it can learn to adapt to stresses over time. But there's certain points that you can't push your body past. There's certain points where your body says, nope, that's too much, and that's where you get an injury. So for Matt and I, my colleague at 1HP, we really focus on kind of building up that really healthy base, building up what we call your heat meter, so that you're never hitting that point of overheat, that point of injury. And one of the really easy things you can do is just those little postural changes while you're playing. So leaning back in your chair, letting your back be supported is excellent, because even if you work really hard on training your core muscles and your postural muscles, eventually they're going to fatigue. You're playing for hours at a time, they're going to wear out.
Hmm.
And that's why it's really important to have that good ergonomic setup that supports you and lets your body stay rested and relaxed. So props to you for already having that in place.
Cool. I just had a quick
Um,
question on your
sure.
opinion on something. So in regards to like sitting in posture, I know one of the new fads going on right now, or not really like a fad, but I noticed that like some offices or like some businesses have implemented like the yoga ball office chairs. What are your opinions on that? And have you ever heard of somebody trying to implement that when playing video games at all?
I haven't seen somebody try to implement it while playing before. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened. I'm just not aware of it. In general, I think of Swiss balls, as they're called, is
Mm-hmm.
kind of the same way that I think of a kneeling chair,
Mm-hmm.
um, in that it is not ideal for all the time, but there's a time and a place for it. And the kind of idea of that, people call them yoga balls, physio balls, Swiss balls, whatever you're going to call them, the big bouncy thing that you could potentially sit on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're good at forcing you to engage your core, but at the same time, they're going to fatigue you more quickly. And it is entirely possible to sit on one of those with really bad posture. So I think they have value in terms of their change of pace. You can use them to train your core a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something different from your regular chair, and those are all good things. The downside is that there is no back support, there is no arm support, and so that's a lot of strain on your upper body, on your neck and your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
So for short intervals, I think it's a great thing to switch to. For anything longer than like 15 minutes to half an hour, it's not the kind of thing you want to spend all day sitting in. It's really not going to be a good option for a long term amount of sitting.
Oh, okay.
Same thing for kneeling chairs, which is not something you asked about, but it's one of my favorite things anyway.
Oh, okay.
Kneeling chairs are great because they give you your postural support from the front instead of from the back, but they're also they're more of a strain on your legs, on your knees in particular, as you might guess by the fact that they're called a kneeling chair.
Mm-hmm.
So they're great for switching it up to, but they're not the kind of thing you'd want to spend all day in. As a general rule, a good office chair, one with a comfortable seat, firm but not so firm it's painful, with adjustable height armrests, with a backrest that potentially is reclinable, but at the very least allows you to sit straight up comfortably. Set at a height where your feet are planted flat on the floor, where your knees are bent to 90 degrees, and where the edge of the seat isn't digging into the back of your calves when you're sitting all the way back in the chair. That's going to be your best bet, finding a good office chair that fits you ergonomically. And then anything else is going to be just a bonus. So having a yoga ball, having a kneeling chair, those are bonus things to switch to on occasion. They're not going to be your bread and butter.
Oh, okay, I see. All right, cool. That's good. That's interesting to hear. I never
Yeah.
sat on those
But
myself, but I just hear it a lot.
if you wanted to grab one for while you're playing, and you spend some amount of time sitting on that, some amount of time sitting in a regular chair, absolutely nothing wrong with that.
All right.
Also, you can bounce on them. They are pretty fun for that purpose.
Yeah, yeah. The
Keeping our priorities in order here.
Oh, yeah.
They train your core. Also, you can bounce on them.
Yeah.
All right. Do you do anything in particular right now for either warm up or cool down or for your break time?
And then as in cool down or break time, is that just any time of the day, or is it after playing video games?
Let's talk about specifically when you're playing.
When I cool down, no, not necessarily, but habitually, I would just like to stretch my hands a lot. That's really it. I do also have a habit of cracking my fingers every now and then, so that's really it. Other than that, I just do my occasional stretches on my arms and stuff. I have this little habit where my elbows have a little bit of hypermobility to them.
Okay.
So I can crack them, and I just have a habit of kind of stretching out and fully stretching out my arms just to trying to get my elbows to crack. But that's really it.
Okay.
Nothing much else when cooling down after playing a video game.
Okay. And let me put you at ease here too, because when it comes to cracking your knuckles and even from getting those pops in your elbows, as long as they don't hurt, there is absolutely nothing wrong with them.
Oh, okay, cool.
There are a number of theories surrounding why our joints make popping noises. The most prevalent theory, and the one that seems most supported by research at present, is that in the synovial fluid, which is the fluid that surrounds our joints, kind of greases them, you can get air bubbles, and you can pop those air bubbles. Now, if you're consistently doing something that's causing you to build up so much pressure in your joints that you're needing to do it, and we're talking constantly throughout the day, then yeah, maybe examine what you're doing and see if maybe you can provide some more strength or stability through to your hands, to your forearms, with exercising, with modifying what you're doing. But if what you're doing is you play games for 2 hours and you got to crack your knuckles afterwards, that's fine. That makes sense.
Oh, okay.
That's reasonable. If you ever want to hear something pop repeatedly, just listen to my ankles. They do that all the damn time. There's nothing wrong with them. They function just fine. They just, make noises. Body parts are like that, and that's okay. If it does start to hurt, that's a thing to pay a little more attention to.
Okay.
Because sometimes if it's a painful pop, that can mean something going on with a tendon or a ligament. But non-painful popping, don't sweat it. Sorry, 1 second. My cat is trying to eat something. I'll be right back.
Okay, no worries. I wonder what her cat's trying to eat.
We're good. It was a piece of cardboard.
Oh, he didn't eat it, did he?
No, I got it out of her mouth before she ate it.
Oh.
Bless her heart. If you hear any jingling in the background, that's her playing with her toys.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
So the things that I kind of want to work on for you, I want you to have a quick 5 to 10 minute kind of warm up routine that you can do. Something that is not only good for you physically, in terms of prepping you for what you're about to do, but also something that really helps you get into a mental mindset of what you're about to do. So, when you're at competition day, you want to be this really kind of tight balance of alert and, amped up and hyped up because, you're about to compete. That's kind of badass.
Yeah.
We also want to be calm and have control over that state. We call that So there's more than one way to refer to arousal.
Mm-hmm.
In performance coaching, we refer to that kind of state of being hyped up and amped up as being aroused as well. But here we're talking about your focus on gameplay specifically. So we want to have this fine balance between calm and controlled, but amped up, excited, getting those, getting your adrenaline pumping a little bit, just within a controlled fashion. So I want to do something that's kind of get you into that mindset, something that makes you, kind of really focus and hone in on this is the time to compete. This is the time to, be at my top level.
Okay.
And then I also want to give you something you can use on breaks. And this is something you could use potentially while you're practicing or while you're at tournaments, kind of whenever you've got the time, whenever you need it. It'll be something probably about like, it'll be kind of be a couple options that are about 2 minutes long. So basically, pick two of these things and do them, just to kind of, at tournaments, keep that flow state, keep that state of, calm, but, really on it, really ready to go. And also something that, keeps you from getting too tight and too cramped up. There's also a bit of a balance to be struck in terms of you don't want your muscles to be tight and painful before you play, but you also don't want them to be like completely and totally about to go to sleep relaxed.
Yeah.
They need to be ready to move. So you want to be striking a balance there. And then the last thing I'm going to be working on for you is this kind of cool down. And that's both, again, mental and physical. We want it to be something that, gets your brain to unwind a little bit, gets you to cycle down from kind of that high arousal state that you were at. And then also gives you something physically that lets your muscles relax. So there will be kind of 3 components to it. And next time we will go over how to do all 3 of them. I'll demo them on screen for you. I'll have a printout for you to look over. And if you have questions at any time, you can always ask me, even after the wave ends, feel free to just shoot me a message. You're like, hey, I don't remember how to do this thing exactly. But with what you've given me and kind of what I know about, use of the PS4 controller, and specifically kind of what motions you're going to need to do repetitively in Tekken, I think we can come up with something that's really going to help you play more and hurt less.
Okay, that's cool.
Any other questions for me before we wrap up tonight?
In regards to just like being a pad player, I don't know if you know specifically the concept of how people play the controller with claw style. I don't know if that would help you in developing a routine for me, because I myself am a claw player. So
you are a claw player. Okay, that is really good for me to know.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I play claw on Tekken a lot.
That's really helpful for me to know, and that gives me a good idea of kind of some things that I can help you out with. Between that and kind of what you've mentioned about the soreness on your thumb pad specifically, yes, in all likelihood, that's mostly from how you press on the D-pad, but that doesn't mean that there's not still things we can do to help kind of loosen and relax the muscles that support and surround your thumb, and maybe get a little more blood flow in there during your break time so that things have a little bit more time to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions for me?
Just one more thing.
Sure.
Because you were talking about having like cooldown methods and everything like that. For me, I never noticed. I know how like one of the Street Fighter players, his name's Takedo. He always like runs. He does like a little like quick jog before he does his match. I know there's benefits to that because it gets his adrenaline rushing, but what are the benefits of doing a cooldown exercise?
Sure. So some of what happens when you're in that state of arousal, same as, if you were doing intense exercise, or if you're doing something really stressful, your body's going to produce, among other hormones, a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is the one we all think of as the stress hormone.
Mm-hmm.
As a general rule, that's not something we want floating around in our system for prolonged periods of time. It can result in inflammation. It can result in sore or tighter muscles. And it has systemic effects as well, having to do with our heart rate and our blood pressure and our breathing rate. And so any ability that we have to kind of quickly clear that cortisol from our systems is really going to be valuable. And in fact, that's actually one of the best things that exercise regularly can do for you. It gets your body used to this. Okay, I've produced the cortisol. I don't need it anymore. I'm going to get rid of it now. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you have that exercise background, that exercise baseline of, you do the walking, you're on your feet a good deal of the time, and you specifically play Pump It Up, like all of those are good things in your favor there. the other part of it is the mindset part as much as the physical part.
Hmm.
You don't want you don't want to spend all of that time on in that amped up state. That's fatiguing. Your body cannot maintain that day in and day out. So again, working on not only getting the muscles to relax, but also getting that cortisol cleared, and kind of getting the rest of your systems calmed down, heart rate, breathing, blood pressure, all coming back to that good baseline state of relaxation. So afterwards, when you want to go to the bar and hang out with friends that you haven't seen in ages because you only see each other at tournaments, like which I relate to very strongly.
Yeah.
You want to actually be able to relax and enjoy that and not be like hyper focused and super duper on.
Okay, cool. Yeah, appreciate the insight.
Yeah, sure. All right. On that note, we will plan to meet up next week, same time. We'll
Hmm.
go over the routine. You'll get to practice it. I'll have a look at how it looks while you're doing it, give you form corrections if need be. And then you'll be well on your way to kicking ass.
Oh, cool. I'm so excited to figure out what this routine is, especially because it's all custom tailored and stuff. I'm excited to implement that, especially when I go to Combo Breaker.
Yeah, for sure. Is so you mentioned Tokido specifically.
Hmm.
Is someone you'd like to emulate, or you were just
Um,
thinking of him because he happens to do a warm up thing?
yeah, he's like one of the only people that I noticed does like a very like extra, kind of warm up thing he before he starts playing. I know some other players they like to kind of just meditate before they start playing. So Tokido's like one of the only like prime examples that I noticed in the FGC that's used or that's utilized like intense physical activity before he gets into a match. So that's why I just thought of it because you mentioned about how doing exercises before you start getting into a match or into a game can help a lot. So
Yeah, for sure. So we'll have that kind of like it'll be a 5 minute warm up thing. It'll be a series of options for a 2 minute break thing, and then it'll be like a 5 to 10 minute kind of cool down deal. All right.
all right, cool. Looking
All
forward
right.
to
I
it.
will chat with you next week.
All right, cool. Bye. See you next week.